Today on Locked On Phoenix Suns, Kevin Durant is back and the wins came with him. We know the Suns are a very good team with Kevin Durant in the lineup. That's obvious. The question is, how good? Worth going all in for? Worth putting everything in to try to win a championship around this dude in the way that he is playing? Or maybe somewhere a little short of that? We'll debate it next.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back in to Locked On Phoenix Suns. I'm Brendon, Kleen, a staff writer at Awful Announcing and a credentialed Suns media member. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen here on this Tuesday. Don't forget, Locked On Suns, free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So click that follow or subscribe button. Do what thousands of other Suns fans have already done. Become an everydayer and get locked on to the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. Today's episode, big one, brought to you by the College Football Playoff. You don't want to miss a moment of the action. The College Football Playoff is here, and it is presented by Allstate, beginning with 4 first-round games December 20th and 21st on ESPN, ABC, TNT, and Max. Watch before ASU, guys. Come on, don't be those people. Enjoy the games in the beginning. Let the people who have to play in the measly first round play their games, and then we'll catch up on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. But check it all out. Joining me from the Wild West Valley, my fellow Suns credentialed media member. How are we feeling on this Tuesday, Ben Garcia?
I'm doing pretty good. I don't know how often you check the comment section on the Locked On Phoenix Suns YouTube channel, but yesterday it was the first thing I noticed when you said it. When you go today on Locked On Phoenix
someone
Suns,
had an issue with it.
Not only do they have an issue with it, and whatever, people are allowed to have opinions. They said it ruins the whole podcast.
Yeah, wow. It's crazy that it could ruin the whole podcast. Just considering it's at the beginning. You don't even get to the rest of it. How am I ruining it? I mean, give the rest of it a chance.
I don't even understand. Just fast forward through the first 10 seconds. You don't even have to listen to it.
Here I go trying to have like a trademark thing that brings people into the show.
I thought it was so funny, man.
Recognizable.
He was trying to be nice about it, or like maybe tongue in cheek. So I'm not going after them, but I was just fast forward. Just go 15 seconds forward. You'll be perfectly fine.
I'll go after him. Look, if he's saying the show is ruined for him, I don't think he's exactly some kind of dedicated listener. I mean, I don't need to be careful. He's some random dude who found the YouTube channel and decided to complain about it.
I thought it was hilarious.
I want him to come back. I want him to give it a chance, but it sounds like he's not even making it. We're 2 minutes in. I don't even think he gets here if I'm ruining it for him with the first thing I say. So I'm sorry, man. But
you think he paused? Do you think he paused the show and then wrote it down in the comment section? Because that would only be the only thing that made sense. I thought that was great. I love commenting back at those people being like, just fast forward 10 seconds. That's all it is. But that was great. I loved it. I love our listeners,
will get
man.
to the latest Jimmy Butler updates courtesy of Brian Windhorst to close out the show. But we have basketball to talk about first. Ben, the Suns are 13-2 with Kevin Durant in the lineup now after those 2 wins over the weekend. And I have some numbers for you that illustrate just how different it has been when Kevin Durant plays and when he does not play. Do you want me to give you those, or do you have a thought off the top to kind of set the stage? This is a little bit of a trade-ish conversation because we are in trade season now, and the idea is sort of all these big dreams that Suns fans might have that, hell, James Jones might have, are they worth pursuing? That's kind of the idea here. Before we go nitty-gritty, what are your thoughts big picture here?
Originally, when you and I kind of talked about doing this topic, I was just like, I can't wrap my arms around this team. I just can't do it. But then I go and look at the standings, and it just came up on Twitter today, and it was like, who are some of the frauds of the West, or teams that maybe are overachieving? Brendon, no one scares me, man. There's not a single team that scares me. The biggest thing with Suns is health. So to reiterate this, because it's so hard, because it feels like we've seen 3 different iterations of the Suns so far for the season, I feel like we have to restate this, that the Suns are a championship contender with Kevin Durant, and I would even preface just with health. But like, Ja Morant doesn't scare me, and the guy misses time in the playoffs nearly every time. Chet Holmgren is injured. OKC still kind of young, although a really good team. Dallas,
your insistence that you're
don't
not scared
know.
of the Thunder, you're gonna be smacked in the face by that take. I'm
No,
sorry.
I'm not
I feel
scared
bad
of
for
them.
you.
I'm not
saying.
I'm not saying that the Thunder won't beat the Suns, but they don't scare me. No, not at all. They don't scare me.
But I just haven't heard a great reason from you. They're the most
Yeah.
dominant team in the NBA. I mean,
Yeah.
or in the West, like without any exceptions. They were the number 1 seed last year. They made it way further than people thought even last season. They're doing it again. Their roster's even better. They have an MVP candidate. I mean, what else could you want?
The Suns were the most dominant team in the NBA in the 2022 season. They won 64 games and they got beat in the second round. Once when Luka Doncic came and knocking, the Suns didn't have any answer for him. If Kevin Durant plays like a superstar, no, I don't fear them. I've already watched a team win a lot of games and lose. The Suns were that team.
Well,
a lot of good players.
yeah.
No,
It's fair. It's fair. And I think maybe there's a conversation to be had. I have some numbers that kind of can get us there in the next segment as to KD versus some of those other top guys, somebody like a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and I think that conversation is relevant here. But just to continue to set the stage here, and we don't need to focus too much on how bad the Suns have been when KD is not on the court. And these aren't just games where he played and didn't play. This is just all the minutes when he's been on the court, all the minutes when he's been off the court. Their defense is equivalent to the 28th best in the league when he's off. Their offense is 11th, which, I mean, hey, that's actually pretty decent. And then when he's on, they have an offense that is equivalent to the 7th best one in the league and a defense that is close, equivalent to the 11th best. So that is night and day. And frankly, surprising to me, Ben, that it is so extreme on the defensive side of the floor. That's really where his impact, just kind of big picture, has shown up the most, just having his size and his IQ and everything else when he's healthy.
Do you remember him being this elite defensively last season or even the season before this?
The season before, yeah, not in Phoenix, but the Brooklyn season, that he was a monster.
I meant like
on defense before he got traded to
the
Suns.
I meant with the Suns when he got traded to the Suns. That's what I meant.
No, this
I don't
is
remember
best
it either.
Stretch as a Sun on that end for sure.
And here's my hypothesis to that: is I didn't think we were going to get this version of defensive Kevin Durant this season, and it has paid dividends in ways that I don't even know what Vogel was doing last year, because Vogel was supposed to be this DC, right? But if Kevin Durant is this good defensively and he's putting this much effort in on the other side of the court, I think it may be contributing to potentially some of his injuries. Calf, rolling ankle, things, soft tissue things. I wonder if that's what's contributing to some of Kevin Durant's issues is he's just doing everything. This guy's not taking nights off or plays off like you're supposed to be. And truly, man, if you'd have told me the 36-year-old was the reason why this defense is so good, well, much better, I would have never bought that. I seriously would have never bought that. I don't know if you thought about that, but that's where my mind went.
Fortunately, I think a little under the radar since he did have to miss time again, unfortunately. But since he did come back from that first injury, he has not cracked 36 minutes. So there has been a concerted effort, even in games where he's had plenty of rest between matchups, to limit his minutes, and that should be a good thing. I wouldn't have expected necessarily him to take a step forward on the defensive end, but I do know for a fact that in order for them to be anything close to a competent defensive team, it's going to take a lot from him. And we've talked plenty about why. He is the only guy on this roster that has size and athleticism plus for their position. No one else does. So it sometimes is just that simple. He's obviously, a Hall of Fame defender too, but really it's just in terms of on and off, that's kind of what you're looking at. But to circle back to what you said, I guess I take the West a little bit more seriously than you, because I look at it as it is wide open, but it's wide open because every team is scary. And not every team, but there's like 6 really good teams, and all of them could win it, of course. And I do consider the Suns to still be one of those teams. But I guess I don't look at that as an opportunity so much as like, oh God, that is going to be rough when it gets to April.
What is so different with Oklahoma City Thunder this year that has really just changed your mind? Is it just Hartenstein and Caruso and the fact that Chet's out right now and they're still a very good defensive team, or what is it for you?
All of those things, yes.
Okay.
I think that when Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is at his best, he is legitimately on par with the best players in the NBA. And in terms of just late game offense, when I want a player, a team to get a bucket, I think he is up there. I think he will be better this playoffs than he was last year. And they are young. Of course, I can't argue that they're young, but they were young last year. This is now go round number 2. I mean, we can't say they're young forever. At some point, they're more experienced. So, the Suns were young. They made the finals year 1. This team didn't, but here's round 2. I mean, stuff just changes pretty quickly. So I guess I just don't hold young against them so much because I don't know what that means. That doesn't tell me anything. Okay, the players have a low age number. I don't care. They could still be good.
Yeah, I mean, I do think age might be a little overstated, but if we were ranking the top 5 players in that series, Suns would have. Listen, I am still taking Kevin Durant over Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
That's fair.
I
Shai
would go.
Proven it.
Yeah, I would say it's Kevin, Shai, Booker, and then we can argue the rest. And if I have 2 of the top 3 players and they're playing at their best, I like the Suns. Now, if you told me if I'd pick them in a series, probably not. But I'm not fearful of them. The only thing that really does scare me about OKC is nothing they do offensively. Dude, defensively, they're like one of the best teams defensively in like the last decade, and they don't have their best defensive player. So that's the one thing that I worry that they could get pushed around like they did last year. But I think the Suns team is a little bit more of an edge than it did last year. So,
and if you're talking about teams that have matched up against the Suns specifically, they have that edge as well.
Yeah,
they have a team that has just owned the Suns more than any other team. But we agree, the Suns are in the mix in the West.
Yeah,
with Kevin Durant, they are there. Without him, well, it's not even a conversation. But luckily, he's healthy right now. You got to expect that that's going to happen. That has to be what informs your decision making. Is that you will have KD. And he is that guy. And with him, you have a chance. So the question becomes, what do you do with that information? How do you build a team? How far do you go building that team in order to give yourself the best chance to win that title with that guy? We'll do that deep dive next. First, today's show brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook. Get ready to tackle the NFL action all season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just check it all out at FanDuel.com to join today. Let's go to the world of college basketball, our old reliable on Tuesday. What do we have going on? Where are our massive favorites? We have Duke hosting George Mason, minus 4,500. Mississippi State hosting Central Michigan, minus 4,500. Those are a couple nice ones. Check it out. College basketball, women's, men's. There's always a huge favorite every night because these conferences are crazy. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Ben, let's keep it rolling here. Reminder to sign up for the Locked On Suns daily newsletter if you haven't already. If you're on YouTube, just type that in right there. It's on your screen. If you're on audio, scroll down a little bit, click in there, type your email address in, support the show, get awesome analysis of the whole league and the Suns, news, fantasy advice, and much more, all in one place for free. And again, best of all, you support the show. Okay, so Ben, to me, the number one thing I look at with Kevin Durant that puts this thing, I would say, even more over the top and is kind of maybe the difference between how I felt last year versus how I feel this year is the clutch. Do you realize the Suns are 10-0 when Kevin Durant plays in clutch games this year? 10-0. They have not lost a game. That was not happening last year.
Well, that doesn't shock me because I know they were like 7-0 at one point. So the fact that they've just built onto those with Kevin Durant, that doesn't shock me, no. But it is a night and day difference from last year.
So he has 36 points in 33 minutes of clutch time this year. He's shooting 60% from the field. It's more than a point a minute.
Oh, my God.
6 out of every 10 shots he takes are going in. And he has just 1 turnover. in that stretch. Like, this guy has been an absolute killer. If he can stay healthy the rest of the way, he will be in line for that award that they made up a couple years ago, and great for him. But that is just such a different situation that the Suns are in, and it makes me feel a lot more comfortable to, I guess, experiment, right? It makes me more comfortable if I'm James Jones or Matt Ishbia or anything else to say, it's exactly the conversation we were just kind of having at the conference. If we get in, we have a shot. It's the same with each game. If we're in the game, we have a shot to win. That would be my mentality going forward with this roster. And I'm not saying go crazy or anything. I mean, there's only so much they can do. But I just feel a lot better. And they already were buyers and made a pretty big move to get Royce O'Neal last year. So I guess the bottom line of what I'm saying is I'm absolutely committed, if I am in that front office, to saying this group has a shot. What can we do to get them there?
Are you committed enough to give everything you have for a guy like Jimmy Butler? Like, you would give everything, correct?
Yeah. I mean, I would give that pickup for less than Jimmy Butler. No, but
it's everything. But it's everything because it's just Jimmy Butler or bust. So you have to be okay with the fact that you're not going to be able to go get anything else. And if that's the case,
I'm saying even if they couldn't get Butler, I would give up everything. I mean, I don't care. I'm all in.
Don't you think that's so dangerous to be that far all in, to give up everything? I feel like I am.
I mean, let's be clear about what everything is. We're talking about one more pick that they have and 2 seconds. I mean, it's
3 seconds. They have 3 seconds.
Yeah, 2 extra seconds in their own second. So, I mean, it's not like we're saying trade 4 firsts and this rookie and that dude and this It's one contract and 1 pick, and that's your deal.
It just feels
whoever
like
it ends up being, Beal or Nurkic or Allen or whatever.
I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but I just feel like there is a difference between being aggressive and strategic and reckless. And I just feel like giving up who knows? I might be just talking up nothing. They could be giving a top 10 protected pick. And if that's the case, I don't care because I don't care about a pick outside of the top 10 in the NBA draft. But there is a scenario where this team bottoms out in 2031. Booker's not here anymore. It's just a bunch of no-name guys, and you lose that pick, and you end up being the Brooklyn Nets when the Celtics fleeced them. So that's the thing I worry about, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the worst of all worst-case scenarios. But here's the thing. The thing that I've said about the NBA, like biggest possible picture, and I promise it relates to the Suns because they're the test case for a lot of the stuff going on with the CBA and team building right now because they blasted through that apron the moment that it was created. It used to be a free agency league, right? Test case better than that than any for that was Kevin Durant when he went to the Warriors, right? And every year we'd all be sitting around for 4th of July going, where's this guy going to go? Which meetings is this player taking? What's going to happen? Now it's a trades and extensions league. That's what the NBA is now. Stars go where they want to go. They get an extension. They could get traded on that extension. They could get traded to a team that will give them that extension. Nobody hits free agency. Everybody just gets traded. And what we will see, you mentioned the Nets. I thought you were going to go current Nets when they had to get rid of their current guys, but the Nets didn't have their picks when they had to get rid of Durant and Kyrie, right? They got some picks in the future back, Suns and Mavs and whatever, but then they traded Bridges. Now they have even more. They're kind of a frisky rebuilding team, and you just turn the whole thing over. By the time we get to 2031, if it's a little bit dicey, first of all, there's so many possible things that can happen between now and then. But second of all, I feel pretty confident that if we're in a completely new era with the Suns by that point in time, Booker will be gone. And you know what will be in his place? A whole bunch of stuff to rebuild with. We're talking about 2031 as if the cap situation for the Suns and the pick situation will still be the same as it is right now, but it won't be. They'll have rebuilt already, and I won't be worried about them not having their own pick because they'll probably have some rookie we've never heard of and this random team's pick, and it'll just be a whole new kind of situation.
It's just crazy to me that we could be giving up a 2031 unprotected pick for a guy, and I don't even know if I'm against it, man. It's something I like. For Butler, I am I've totally flipped. Just give it up. If it does happen, it's a story for another day. But because I'm so over the Bradley
Or
Beal
like
being
3 minutes from now.
for nonsense. But exactly. But giving up the 2031 pick for like a guy, because we did the math last night, man. I was going through the salaries. It's like Nick Richards or bust, and it just feels like a ton to me to give up a non-protected pick or maybe even protected pick for a guy like Nick Richards that Suns fans tell me how underrated and good he is. I know they've never watched.
I'm not giving that pick up for Nick Richards. I mean, look, here's the thing.
Well, you said you give it up for a lot less, so I just went there.
I would give it up for a lot less than Butler, but a lot more than Nick Richards. I'll put it that way. But like, look, don't get me wrong. They should be trying to negotiate to protect that pick if they can. If they do a stupid trade, I will slaughter them for it. I'm not just giving them a get out of jail free card to go throw that pick around and get whatever they can get back for it. I mean, I don't want, a bad trade just to say we can have a press conference on February 7th and have something to talk about. I just want them to be all in. That's it. And I don't know what that's going to look like right now, but the whole conversation we're having is, are they good enough to warrant that, right? We're not having a who should they trade for conversation. We're having a should you go all in conversation. And my answer to that is yes for right now. And we'll see what that looks like as we get closer to the deadline. But for me, the answer to that question is 100% yes. You got to be all in.
Yeah, I don't like sitting on a fence, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to lean towards yes, be all in. Because, I mean, it is just kind of stupid for me to harp on holding on to one pick when, I mean, whatever. Like, you got rid of all your other ones. Might as well get rid of this one, too. I'm just hesitant, man. I'm just hesitant because I worry that they couldn't make a good deal. But to be fair, James has made a lot of good deals as his time as the Suns. I would argue he's been a pretty good trader and a decent drafter. So we'll see, man. I say go all in, but there's just not a lot out there. Pretty soon, you and I will get into like real trade candidates, what makes sense. And I've done a deep dive in it because you kind of perked my ears up to, yeah, man, there's not a lot out there. And I went and looked and I'm like, oh my goodness. It's a lot of Nick Richards or Isaiah Stewart or bust. And that worries me. I know Dorian Finney-Smith's out there, but still, it's just it's a weird place for the Suns to be in. But yeah, go all in.
So it's a tough time to be all in the NBA because the thing about being in this apron purgatory that the Suns are in, that the Bucks are in, that, to a lesser extent, like the Knicks and the Nuggets and the Heat and all these other teams the Celtics are kind of in, is they're all having that same conversation, which is, well, what, are we going to not keep upgrading now? We're already where, and so I think there's going to be a lot more buyers than sellers. The play-in tournament has made more teams want to kind of push for this stuff, and nobody's really tanking anymore. This draft has, whatever, one great guy, but we don't really see the tanking like we used to. So, yeah, the market will be interesting, but in a vacuum, if I'm looking at it just from a Suns standpoint, for all the reasons we've talked about, I think you got to just, whatever it looks like, you got to go for it.
Push the chips in the table. Push the chips in the table.
Brian Windhorst of ESPN gave us an update on Jimmy Butler. 3 big things that Windy said. We'll go one by one through all of them next. First, today's show brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 per month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Today's episode also brought to you by Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions that you forgot about? Have you ever wanted that help and maybe looked for somebody that could. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscription, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Look, I know a lot of you guys are sports fans. Maybe I'm more of a nerd about this stuff being in this side of the business, but you see a lot of people out there making great content. You're like, sure, of course I will support you. Of course I want to read this random article that I saw. Of course I want to throw out some money to your Patreon or be a member of this thing or pay this or whatever. And then you forget, okay, I accidentally signed up for the monthly. I should have just paid for the one-off. Why has that charged me 15 straight months in a row for $5 and I missed it completely? That's what Rocket Money is for. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions. Reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today to sign up. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, Ben, I got 3 updates from Brian Windhorst. I'm going to throw each of them at you, and you give me your response. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So the one that got aggregated, the one that I think got the most attention was Windhorst said, the Suns are interested in Jimmy Butler, and that's not a controversial statement, quote unquote, which, I think we saw through their fake out of whether they might be interested, Ben. So that was not a huge surprise to us. But then he went on to say that the Suns would be totally fine giving Butler the $100 million that he reportedly wants.
You don't say, Brendon. $100 million for Jimmy Butler or 140 for Bradley Beal. But it is helpful that is out there. Just so Butler knows that that's something that he doesn't have to worry about if he comes here. So, yes. What about you? How does that ring a bell for you?
Well, not a surprise. You're right. But I think it kind of clears up one little side of it that is maybe a little more wonky, but still important to keep track of, which is that if you remember back to the very first time we talked about it before the Suns even got wrapped up into it last Thursday, my main reason for saying that I would at least entertain it was the idea that Beal getting off their books sounded pretty nice. And so part of that could have been, hey, maybe it's not so bad if the Suns get Butler and maybe even lose him in free agent. Like, they could maybe take that risk because the payoff for them would be no more Beal. And it would kind of be a win-lose, even if it's not a win-win. Now, that seems to be out of question because the Suns would be totally happy to give him that contract. And if he wants to be here in a trade, you would guess he would sign it. So this is probably not going to be a rental if they get Butler, is what that told me, which, great. But at least kind of answers one little part of this.
Yeah, and there was like the circulating thing where Suns fans were kind of like, hey, if you get rid of Bradley Beal and you get Butler, you could re-sign Tyus Jones, which is also a little enticing as well. And that shoots down the percentage of weeks ago when you said, any chance he stays here with the Suns? And they said, no, there's no chance. He's going to go take his bag and go get it somewhere else. But I think it does at least help throw out there for Butler that, hey, we want you, even though we have to do this through back channels, and we will pay you. And I'm going to let you get to the other things that Windhorst said, because I do have other points to make there that may scare people, but I don't think so.
So the thing to keep in mind when you hear that 100 million thing is think about what the Suns did with Chris Paul when they traded for him, right? He was on not the last year of his contract, but the last guaranteed year of his contract. They play through that season. They make the finals, fairy tale season, blah, blah, blah. What does he do after that? He declines his option and becomes a free agent, but right away they re-sign him. The idea being, we're going to give you a lot of total money, but we're going to keep that single season number a little lower so we can go out and give a mid-level exception to JaVale McGee or whatever they ended up doing beyond that. So that's kind of, I think, what we would be looking at here. Can they give him $100 million over 3 years instead of 2? And that cuts the money they're paying Beal, which is 50 plus, down to around 30 and frees up some wiggle room. That's kind of, I think, what that means. Number 2, Ben. The Heat would most likely rather pay Jimmy whatever contract, the max he can get, even though they didn't give him an extension at that number this past summer. Once they actually get to free agency next year and push comes to shove, they would probably just rather give him that than take on Beal's contract and give him that. Kind of within that, Windhorst also pretty much indicated flat out that the Heat taking Beal is a long shot as far as what he's hearing.
Yeah, cool. You know what else was a long shot? Kevin Durant coming to the Suns a couple years ago. You know what else was a long shot? Bradley Beal coming to the Suns a couple years ago. I don't care what any reporter says. I don't care what the Heat say. If Jimmy Butler wants to be in Phoenix, he will be in Phoenix. That is the way the things go in the NBA. And here's my, now why would they do that speculation? Well, if the Suns are putting out there, and I said this last week, hey, we don't know if we're going to include our 2031 pick in that deal. And the Heat said, fine, we're really cool with Butler. We'd rather re-sign him than have Beal. I think this is all just playing a little game of chicken between the Suns and the Heat through back channels that, hey, we'll just keep Butler, or you better send us your pick. But if Butler is such a nuisance in the locker room and he makes it evident he doesn't want to be there, and he's been traded before 2 other times before this, or whatever, he will end up in Phoenix. Nothing else matters. That's what I take from it. I don't know what you take from it, but I couldn't care less what the Heat say. The NBA has gone way too far to catering to stars. If Butler says, trade me to Phoenix and only Phoenix, he will be in Phoenix. We've seen it far too many times.
I think that my take on this is kind of connected to the last point here, which is the timing of all of this. And the last thing that Wendy said that we wanted to note is that he doesn't expect a deal at all until right around the deadline on February 6th. So I know you were a little more bullish on it getting done sooner. I was maybe pumping the brakes. It sounds like the Heat's hesitancy, whatever this public negotiating is, all of the kind of swirling details that have to get wrapped up with all of this, Ben, especially when you're talking about a no trade clause and a next contract next summer that you got a back channel about and all this sort of stuff and multiple suitors, not to mention that it just is not an immediate type of thing. And so when I look at both of those things together, you mentioned it from the Sun standpoint, right? This idea of like, could they keep Tyus? Or I said it about, could they decrease the salary commitment and spread it out over more years and give themselves some flexibility? The Heat are up against it too. They're not over the second apron, but they're over the first apron. If they're looking at this and saying, Jimmy is making life hard on us, there's not an awesome trade out there. If we don't love giving Kuminga a big contract, we don't love paying Beal, there's not an awesome pick on the table, blah, blah, blah. And Jimmy's as good as gone, then Jimmy's as good as gone. Let's play out the season. Maybe, hey, we made the finals as an 8 seed. Maybe we have a better run in us than anyone thinks, and that convinces him to stay, or maybe not, and he walks anyway. And that gives us a little bit of room to play with here and go get a different player, a different star, maybe next summer, especially considering you look at next summer. There's no cap space teams outside of the Brooklyn Nets. He's not going to the Brooklyn Nets most likely. So they're going to have to he's going to have to work with them to get where he wants to go, even if he does opt out next year. And so I kind of just look at all of this and I think, why are the Heat in a rush to do anything immediately? And maybe even at all. Even if the end result is that they, quote unquote, lose him for nothing. They might look at this whole situation and say it's worse than nothing.
Yeah, that is the only thing I worry about, is because it is Miami, Jimmy could just want to stay in Miami and the Heat would be, all right, we're just going to do nothing. my thing is I'd rather get something than nothing. I don't think the Heat are close, like at all, to being some sort of title contender. I don't think Hero and Bam Adebayo are going to get it done. I mean, they're still running out the no center thing basically with the Heat. I just think if they come to terms that they're not very good, this team isn't close, that they just want to get something back and use Beal as leverage 2 years from now when you can get off his contract and make it's an expiring deal with $50 million. I don't know, man. I think that is a strong possibility as well. But the thing that does worry me the most is that they just do nothing. But I don't know why teams would want to do nothing. That's the only thing is it's hard to just do nothing. And I think sometimes teams get in their own way of that. Yeah, but if he's going to be traded and he wants to be here, he'll be in Phoenix.
Well, the other thing I was going to throw your way on that is the most recent example of a star kind of forcing his way somewhere type of thing did not end up with that star where he wanted to go. Actually, both of the ones in 2023. Beal wanted to go to Miami. He even had a no-trade clause, and he did not get there. And Damian Lillard wanted to go to Miami as well and ended up in Milwaukee, even though the Heat did want him. So in this CBA environment, we actually have not had an example that proves that superstars are 100% always going to go exactly where they wanted now that teams are punished so much more heavily for paying those guys.
Who was the other one you mentioned before you mentioned Dame?
Well, Beal
Beal
didn't want to, like, it's not like he left Washington and said, I'm headed to Phoenix. That's not what happened. He ended up here because it kind of ended up being the only real option that made sense for him.
No, I disagree with that. I think
he wanted to go to Miami. He told us that. And then there was a Milwaukee conversation.
Beal wanted to go to Miami, but Miami did not want Beal. That was reported by Gambo that Miami didn't want Beal.
So I understand that there's a little bit of a difference because in this case, the Suns
you have to
want Jimmy.
Each other. Yeah.
Sure. But what I'm saying is that Washington had to they took the best deal of all the options, I guess, is what I would say there, where they didn't want Chris Middleton. There wasn't a situation out there with Miami where Miami was going to give up enough to make it worth it. So the Wizards found another team that Beal was willing to go to. It's a little different because there is a no trade clause, but I'm just saying neither Dame nor Jimmy nor Beal were like the Anthony Davis situation.
Yeah, I think the Dame situation was a little unique because he made that one really ugly, and that was coming off the heels of KD, AD. I think the NBA made it a real point, and also that was just Portland being stupid. Portland didn't want to take the best trade package and all the assets that the Heat would have given them. They dug their heels in the ground. A lot of that was just Portland was being stupid. I don't think Miami's stupid.
I just want to say I'm on your side. I tend to agree. In the NBA, stars go where they want to go. I think I've said that on this show while we're talking about Butler in the past week. I just want to throw out all the kind of possibilities here as we're talking through it because it's been a while since we saw. Basically, Durant was the last time we saw that a star go exactly where they wanted to. So we'll see if that continues. That'll wrap us up. Hit follow, subscribe if you haven't already. We're here for you every day. Become an everyday-er and get this show in your feed to start every morning. Enjoy your Tuesday. We'll talk to you next time.